Hey guys, Zixarat Magical, and today I want to talk about how I was able to find stability in the middle of a schism during schizophrenia, which is absolutely possible, and anyone that tries to treat you as a schizophrenic, or anybody, it doesn't have to be just schizophrenia, just if you're going through darkness, there's a way out, okay? There really is. Like, I swear, like, there's a way out, okay? So, for me, it's art. Every day I'm drawing, and I'm drawing my friends. Who are my friends, you ask? Well, the faces. If you follow me on TikTok or if you follow me on Instagram or have seen my work before, the faces have been a constant in what I do. And what are the faces? Well, doctors call them hallucinations. A lot of people say that it's just made up in my head, which, I'll honestly have a discussion about what imagination actually is soon. But for now, let's just focus on this. So the faces are the hallucinations that I have everywhere that are constantly guiding me to my next objective, my next goal, what I got to do, what I got to say. Um, the persona Christopher, or this idea of like my ego, like Christopher, it's not inflated into the point where I think I'm my mind. I'm not my mind. But I do have a mind and I use it as a tool. It took a long time to get there though. And I know that some people watching this video are having a hard time with their minds, so please listen. Um, so we focus a lot on three-dimensional space, right? We think that our whole existence is in three-dimensional space. We think, oh, there's a table, that's real. There's a chair, that's real. A teddy bear, real. Bong, whatever, everything, real. Have you guys ever like had that moment where you realize, like, wait a second, things are a little uncanny. Life is speeding up a little bit. Things are happening a little too fast these days. There's too much evolving. There's too much new information all the time. What happened to the world that I knew? Well, the world that you know is crumbling, okay? And this isn't to create anxiety. It's actually not a bad thing. Um, so when you have schizophrenia, you're very aware. Well, at first it's you have no idea what's going on. Like when the schism hits you for the first time, you're just like, because everything that you thought you knew was real isn't. And that's, you can see it as just a perception or whatever. The way that I see schizophrenia is it's a heightened perception. And the reason I see it as that, it's not in a hierarchical way though, like heightened perception, give me the crown. Like, no, that's not what it is. I am a perception, and other schizophrenics who are self-aware are a perception of reality beyond the boundaries that we set in day-to-day life. Like, don't say that, that's weird. Don't do that, that's weird. There's no such thing as faces. There's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as this, that, that. Well, let me tell you something. Being schizophrenic, well, before the schism started, I was an academic. And I wrote essays a lot, and I did a lot of research. And my main hobby was, besides art, researching science. And, after a while, you reach a ceiling with science. And, it's a great tool, just like the mind, but it's not the truth. So how does that wrap together with the faces and everything? Well, I'm about to tell you, like, dimensions are real. Multi-dimensional understandings are real. There's not one right way to do something, and there's not one right way to love someone. There's not one right, like, there's different paths like rivers that end up to the same goal of unification and not a one world government. I just mean like a unification within yourself, which creates a ripple effect of positivity and individualization with other people. Because the more people can be individuals, just the better world, honestly. And I was a person who was on the streets, crazy hair and everything on the streets, just I have photos from that time, which I'll post soon. But there was a time where I hated everyone. I thought that everybody was against me. And I thought that, there's this big, like, evil that I have to vanquish all the time. This big, like if it's not me, I can't be bad because there's other people out there who are worse than me and do this and do that, and that's what makes me the supreme good one. But that's not the truth, guys. We're all evil when we're unconscious, because evil is an unconscious act. It's an ego act. It's a thinking act. And, you know, it's hard to hear that because we're conditioned our whole lives to hear, oh, you have to think about things. You have to plan ahead and think through and think. Thinking is okay if you're trying to do self-reflection in a way that helps benefit your own mental health, so then you can bring those fruits out into the world and plant the seeds that create better generations of children, better generations of compassion and understanding. But I'm not going to sit here and act like this guru or act like this person that's like, oh, we must always be just still and peaceful. If we were meant to be still, we wouldn't be these three-dimensional formed molecular superstructures walking around with a soul piloting us. And people hear the word soul and they go, oh God, a soul, religion, blah, blah. First of all, I'm First Nations, so I don't believe in a monotheistic God at all. But what I do believe in is that we all have that in us. You know what I mean? So basically, everybody wants a leader. Everybody wants one person, one ruler, one thing that can tell us what's right and what's wrong outside of ourselves so that we can be saved. That's how I felt when I was in the psych unit, and that's how I felt whenever I was on the streets and I was doing a lot of drugs and I was doing a lot of really stupid things and hurting people and getting in fights and doing all this stupid shit. So basically, what ended up happening was over the years and up until very recent, actually, over this summer, I cleared up. And that's why I'm able to make these videos now comfortably, no anxiety, and I just let it go. Because I was the prime example of an overthinker. I was like, I can't do this because people will think that's weird and do that. And you know where that led me over the years? That led me to be schisming, first of all, because you realize that, you know, especially when you're an artist and a researcher of certain things, not with a PhD, not with a degree, all that. No, I research things because I'm interested in existence. But what I wanted to say was that there's this very strange thing that occurs when someone is schisming where they really think that everybody else, the doctors and everything, even though they know deep down that it's all bull, they still are afraid. And in that fear, they go, okay, please give me the antipsychotic. Please give me the thing that's going to save me from myself. That's not how it works. I am sorry. You don't get to a point where you can actually articulate and understand what the hell is going on with yourself. And that goes for everyone, like, besides schizophrenia. There's a point where you have to literally look within and you have to drop all your notions of spirituality being bullshit and woo-woo, because spirituality is just another word for multidimensional understanding, okay? And there are multiple dimensions, because to be in the 3D world, where we have like trees and matter and, you know, molecular supersuits, or I like to call it my vessel, there's another dimension right above that called the fourth dimension and beyond. And that's where tesseracts are scientifically proven, for those of you that are like, but, actually, Okay? So, for us to exist in the third dimension, and if you're focused on the third dimension being the only dimension, for us to exist in the third dimension, there's a second dimension. Like, did you realize that? There's a second dimension holding up the third dimension. And what's holding up the second dimension? The first dimension. And where does that all come from? Well, in quantum physics, it's called the zero-point field. It's the place where all things are created, destroyed, and recreated. Now, our whole existence is literally from that one dimension, two dimension, three dimension. So what the heck is, what is a soul? What is thinking? What is a mind? What is all this, like, collective consciousness, people going, you know what? It feels really surreal on Earth right now. It's like people are changing. It's like, that's the dimension higher than the third dimension. You can't make art in just a strict three-dimensional space, and if you do, it's just making itself. Hence the reason trees exist, the reason water is so beautiful. But whenever we're piloting these suits, these vessels, these space suits for our souls, what's actually happening is that we become our own creators, kind of how the third dimension was created by a multidimensional being that we usually call God. Well, anyway, we're all that thing. We're all creator in Amigma, and in our spirituality or our understanding of life. Because I don't like to, it's not a religion, it's not a Like, it's not something to follow and like learn lessons and do. It's a way of being. You create. You're a creator. That energy is channeled out from the same energy that created three-dimensional space for you to play around in, which I always call this the sandbox. I mean, you can't take it completely seriously. The real art and the real creation is happening in here, and all in this field here. So everything that's ever been made, from cars to cars, playground equipment, fish flops, you know, like sandals that look like fish and stuff. Just anything that's novel, anything that's new, anything that expands and creates a ripple effect of new creation, that comes from within, but it's also from that dimension where imagination is. And so what I'm trying to say, it's hard to say it with direct English, because trust me, it's really hard to talk about these things in English. It's beyond the English. It's beyond language structure. That's what it is. And the English language is so limiting because you only use words that are like yes, no. In that, there's no like sense of polarity like there is, but it's more of a dualistic thing, like where everything's just black or white. Yes, no, this, that, that. But then you get those gray areas that are like maybe, but that still doesn't tell you what the hell is going on. But that's part of the whole show. It's part of the whole art of everything that's going on here. So yeah, what I was trying to say was that when you meet a schizophrenic person and they say something like, I feel like I'm Satan, or I feel like I'm Jesus Christ, they're not wrong if you look at it from, like, take the ego out of there, okay? Take the persona out of there. It's not about religion. It's not about all that stuff. It's not about following something and like listening to an external force. The reason that story exists of like Christ on the cross and like suffered for humanity, it's a polar example of the good. You're supposed to reach as far as you can towards that greater good, which is compassion, kindness, creativity, and being able to sacrifice yourself for your fellow people. You know what I mean? Like you can't. When a schizophrenic person is freaking out and they're at a hospital and they're going like, I'm Jesus Christ, maybe in that moment you shouldn't tell them that like they have a similar energy in them, because the ego, when you're schisming, it's the ego is fighting with the non-ego, the soul, and the schism is all this conflicting information going on and in and out, and you don't know who you are. How I found my way out of the schism was I listened to my gut. So yes, there has been hard times. There have been times where I felt very powerless. There have been times where I cried my eyes out, times I couldn't cry. This year I cry more than any other time, and if you tell me that's not healing, then I think you're an idiot, honestly. Self-love is more than just, I'm going to get a cappuccino and I'm going to sit here all day and be comfortable. That's not helping you. Comfort is your enemy, actually. What you need to do is you need to go out and you need to experience life. And whether you start that in baby steps and then move forward, like it only can grow. That's planting a seed in yourself. It's for you to grow, and eventually the branches of your existence curl out and you become this beautiful tree full of life and love and spirit. So, yeah, but when someone is in a psych unit, or if they're with a shitty family that doesn't understand what they're going through, what's going to happen naturally is that destruction is going to happen, okay? And you can go ahead and blame the schizophrenic person or blame society, but the truth is, it's up to the person. But it doesn't help when you're around people who are constantly telling you you're crazy. I mean, what is crazy? Everything's crazy. Nature itself is schizophrenic and unpredictable. The definition of schizophrenia truly, besides voices, is mental processes that people don't understand. Simply put. And because neurotypical people don't understand what schizophrenia is, it's easily demonized, right? There's plenty of stories I can think of that involve a schism, a schizophrenia, like Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars. Like, yeah, you could say that he has like bipolar, but he's schisming because he's learning about the Force, which is the multidimensional understanding of life and love. and then he gets influenced by the voice of Chancellor Palpatine, and tells him, like, you've got great power, you can be good. And that egging on the ego like that makes a person with schizophrenia really evil. And evil is an unconscious act, like I said before. So it's not that he in his soul wants to go out and like kill kids and hurt people, but the reason why it happened was because it's not society's fault. It's not the fault of everybody collectively, because everyone's doing their best. That's the reality. But it's the fault of the person who knows what that energy is. Whether it's a institution or a bad doctor, or sometimes the people who become the most evil are influenced in a time when they're so vulnerable and don't know who they are, and they act upon making someone else who they think is powerful proud. But the whole problem with all of that is that, the Jedi and the Sith, Anakin was looking at one or the other. So, if we put it in this terms, he was looking at Jesus or the devil, Satan. And he didn't know how to walk the middle path like the Mandalorian. That's why the Mandalorian is such a great story, is because it's not about being the best you can be, completely harmless and only defensive. And it's not good to be the person with wrath that goes out and attacks everybody and hurts them. The whole point is that you have to take both those energies, the ego and the spirit, and mesh them together, which actually destroys the schism over time. But you have to be compassionate not only to the outer world, but the inner world. And compassion isn't always just, you'll be okay, everything is good, ignore the bad stuff, everything's good. No. A schism coming together, Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio's character, and the blonde kid that are fighting. One is an extreme, the other is another extreme. And the only reason why the only way you can fix that is putting them together. You got to put them together. And that's the real force of nature. Because just as beautiful as waves are, or the sky, or anything, there's so much positivity and beauty from that energy. But at the same time, if on one or the other polarity for too long can cause destruction, doesn't matter if it's been labeled good or bad, very dualistic terms, right? So all this is coming from the fact that I didn't grow up with a Western philosophy, but I have been influenced by it in the media, and I had to go through that journey myself. But what I'm trying to say is that it got to a point, if I'm going to bring it personal, where suddenly these guys came along and they started warning me. And were they always compassionate in the sense of, well, they were always compassionate, but were they always nice? No. I've had many nights where these guys are swimming around my head and they're screaming at me because of how much of a demon I'm being. But sometimes you got to use the energy, the dark energy, and sometimes you got to use the light energy. But overall, the mission is not to hurt people. Do you know what I mean? Overall, it's not to hurt everything. The point is that you have to find that middle ground where you can fight when you have to fight, and you can love and love deeply and be kind, gentle. You have to know how to be gentle, and you have to know how to be a fighter to survive in this big, crazy world. It's the only way. I've been in a lot of situations where I've hurt people, and I've been in a lot of situations where I help people. And over time, when I stopped hating myself and I started to realize the unification of consciousness and that everything is going to be okay, everything was okay. Things really are going to be okay, right? You might be hurting now. Something really traumatic might have happened to you. I know. I've had traumatic things happen to me too. Really horrible things. But it comes together eventually. It's the ego that wants to hold on. It's the ego that wants to create revenge scenarios. It's the ego that wants to kill. But the truth is, there's a balance. And there always has been. There always has been. Anyway, that was really intense, but it's what I've been wanting to say. I wanted to get it off my chest. I'm going to go have a hot chocolate and watch some Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, because that's a really cool movie. It makes me feel like a kid again. So, thanks for listening, and Jesus, video is so long. But yeah, have a great day, everybody. Happy New Year's. It's been Exorad Magical. This is Puppy Pout, my teddy bear since I was a kid, and thank you very much for listening. I hope this helps somebody. And I also hope it made someone uncomfortable, because sometimes that's a little push that you need to grow. So most of my lessons in growth have been from being pushed in a way that made me really uncomfortable. But you get out of it. Love you.